Hey Graham, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Fine.
How was your break?
Oh, it was nice and refreshing. We went to the Netherlands and
Oh,
spent some
wow.
time at the Northern Sea. It was
Mm,
nice. Besides, it felt a little bit strange because they had an incident of over 400 at that time in the Netherlands.
really?
So that was a little bit weird, but yeah, we went home safely. Nobody got infected, and we are vaccinated now, so should be
Oh,
good.
fantastic. Oh, that's great. It's obviously at this point in the world, it's tricky to be able to do an overseas holiday. So it's really good that you were able to pull it off and everyone's safe and everything.
Yeah, 2 days later, we would have needed to go into quarantine for
Right.
5 days,
Right.
but we just went home in time.
Hello, everyone.
Cool.
Awesome. So, demo, let's kick off, Graham.
Yeah, so I was really hoping I would have everything in place to try and do traffic in Canary for this. Just didn't happen.
That's right. I
We're
think
very close, which I'll
doing safe
discuss.
is the best one. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I realized today for about 4 hours, there was back to back, like the k8s workloads GitLab com pipeline was going back to back with deploys, configuration, like literally just they were all backed up. Like it was one after the other. So there was a lot of changes happened today. So at least that's good. Let me share my screen so people can see this. I'll make this a bit bigger. So if I just look at the logs for one of the staging clusters, gstage US East 1B, if I look at the logs for all of the Ingress and Nginx pods, we can see that we have a lot of things coming through. So we can see that traffic is going through Ingress and Nginx, which should be the API traffic and the API traffic only. You can see here, most of these URLs should have API readiness, API. This also, in the logs, this section here is actually the Kubernetes service that it's going to. So GitLab, the web service API 8181 is like basically, saying this request went to this Kubernetes service on this port. So that allows us to grep for web service, web serve web, and this is not going to return anything. So even if I go and hit staging.gitlab.com a few times, refresh, we can see that's not returning anything. Yet if I was to look at the web service pods themselves, like this, so let's see web service. We can see that they're definitely taking a good amount of traffic, mostly to the readiness endpoint, but also other bits and pieces, readiness, liveness. Come on. Now that I say that, it's not going to show me any other traffic, is it? Ah, dear. Anyway, I see if I can find. Hold on. Grep -v -c readiness. I think we saw some other stuff floating past. Prometheus, liveness. Yeah, I thought that staging would have more traffic, unless this is some real traffic. Yeah, that's from a real user. So anyway, I think the point of the demo is essentially that I'm demonstrating that the web service pods are taking traffic. I'm demonstrating that the Nginx pods are not taking traffic, so we've successfully bypassed it. If I stop sharing, I probably should have shared the wrong thing. If I stop sharing, if I start sharing my actual browser, and we have a quick look at Puma and staging. JSON type keyword is web. Go back for maybe 1 hour ago. So that is when I did a rollout. So that would have been all the CI job running all the CI tests, I assume. And that's probably earlier from today when I was doing a bunch of deployments as well with CI tests. If we add a filter and do JSON.status is between 500. Did I do that right? I was trying to show if there's been any errors, pages throwing errors. JSON.status. Yep, so somehow over the last hour, we have had 0 errors in web. If I go over the last day, this is in staging, obviously. Very, very few errors. Not surprisingly, I guess, because we don't get much traffic in that environment, but we can certainly see that yesterday, before we removed Nginx, today when we removed Nginx, mostly, no noticeable huge increase of anything being broken or anything. And in fact, I'm pretty sure all these errors that are being reported are the same error. Filter out liveness and readiness. Yeah, see, if you filter out the liveness and readiness checks from deployment, it's very, very small amount of errors. And it's, usually something about Git no repository or something like that. So yeah, that's more or less what I really wanted to demonstrate. Because sorry.
Have we had those changes in place? So we've had a deployment since we took Nginx off staging. Was that correct?
So let me get my timing right. I did. Yes, one, just
okay.
one.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Great. Which, I mean, I suppose that's not where
yeah.
I don't suppose we'll have a good test on staging, right? Like based on, I doubt we do proxy buffering very often on staging, but
yeah,
good to know the config and all set up well.
I think that's the thing. At the end of the day, I'm very confident. I think we can all be fairly confident there's nothing that's outright broken, which is what we already suspected. It's just about performance profiling, and we shouldn't have like Cloudflare between Cloudflare and us and GKE. I would imagine there's pretty good reliable networking. I'm pretty sure Cloudflare does a lot of stuff to make sure all the cloud providers have good network connectivity. So when it gets proxy buffered at Cloudflare, we're being protected from someone on dial-up, or I don't know if anyone's on dial-up anymore, but someone on a slow connection tying up Puma unnecessarily. So, I'm pretty confident that everything's fine. If we have a few minutes, I can talk about where we are in terms of web migration.
Yeah,
so I had a whole bunch of change requests, various bits and pieces. I rolled them out today. Some important things of note. I found things during my configuration audit of web that were missed in other migrations. So I did a change request today to basically bring a whole bunch of components into sync, not just web. Web was the most one, but there was also Sidekick and some others that just had one outstanding change. That is gone through, it's been applied. There was an incident, there was an alert I just saw, which is making me alarmed that we may have broken something, but that's another, hopefully not. And the other changes that I brought through that were outstanding were related to like the content headers for JavaScript, which is obviously very important. Otherwise JavaScript won't load, things will break. And the other one was, and this is an important one, is the allow list of users that get to bypass rate limiting for API. When I first set that setting up and migrated it from Chef, or synced it from Chef like 18 months ago, I had a spelling mistake in the field. So the setting was never getting set at all in any of our Rails stack that we're running in Kubernetes. So I fixed that now. So I don't know if we've seen rate limiting issues on people who shouldn't be rate limited, but it wouldn't be surprised if they've just magically fixed.
Interesting. Okay, I might mention that scalability just as a heads up for that, because I know they monitor that stuff.
Sure. So yep, so configuration order, it is completely done now. So everything is all in sync. We're all good to go. So removing Nginx is all the way up. We've got load balancers at every level. We're all ready to go. The next step we need to basically do is go into HA proxy and add web Kubernetes as a backend so that we could start adjusting weights to send traffic to it. And the final point, unfortunately, is our cookbook for HA proxy is not flexible enough. It's like, because we have to have our current VM backends using like Nginx port 443 and the Kubernetes backend using Workhorse port 8181. Our cookbook just takes the one port setting and just wraps them all with the same port. So we need to do, I need to do a tiny bit of work on the cookbook to make it more flexible, and then I can add the backends and away we go. Note that if we hadn't removed Nginx, we would have had the same problem with readiness checks. We're not flexible with readiness checks. We say every server has one readiness check, whereas the readiness check for Kubernetes and VMs would be different even if we kept Nginx. So either way, we had to cross this bridge, and I knew about it. I knew about it, forgot about it again, getting distracted about everything else. But now I've come back and I've realized it's just chef cookbook stuff, you know, which is, it's not the funnest thing in the world, but it's as simple and easy. Like I can, you know, see what we need to do and adjust it. I just need to roll that out. Then I will basically add web Kubernetes as a backend in Canary. We'll scale it up. So scale it up to, so it's like ready for, as in scale the number of pods and the horizontal pod autoscaler so they're ready for traffic. And then it's just a question of starting to adjust weights and sending traffic.
Awesome. That's great progress. And alongside that, I know Scarbeck made good progress with the making the temp directory volume available.
I've been monitoring
so that. Oh, great. I was going to say that'd be a good one for us to just keep an eye on. I assume that if we have problems with that, it will be visible in a deployment at some point. So it would be good to have a few deployments pass through for this one as well.
Yeah, so the initial bug when we tried to do the thing and we caused the problem and everything, we can clearly see that's been fixed and that's fine. I was having a chat to Matt Smiley about this as well, and because he's looked into this issue a lot on the VM side, and he had a good point, which is we're actually not going to be able to see this very much in Kubernetes because we saw it because it was failing deploys because it would fill up a disk when we were trying to put our GitLab package in. But because it's a whole container being cycled, the volumes go away with the container. So if this was to happen in a pod, the pod will fill up its temp volume, crash, and Kubernetes will just restart it silently. So the only metric we have to see if this is still occurring in Kubernetes would be, and I don't know if we have metrics for this, is seeing the amount of pods that are crashing, if that makes sense, that are actually getting terminated and crashing. But if we have a look at that, we can probably determine if this is happening or not. I haven't looked into it enough, and I probably should. I suspect the fact that we're not seeing alerts about this, like, because there's two ways: either Kubernetes cleanly shuts the pod down or uncleanly shuts it down. If it's doing it uncleanly, there's a potential for us to see like errors, like our error ratio taking a hit of like something noticeable to us. I suspect, right? Like, I don't know. We've got a lot of like shutdown periods, stuff like graceful shutdown periods. We send signals to Puma. I don't know if that's being done when the disk fills up underneath it. That being said, we've given it such a large temp volume that it would take probably a long time for them to fill them up. And the average life cycle of any one of our pods is less than 6 hours because we deploy so often. I just don't think we're going to hit any condition where it's going to cause problems, fortunately.
Might it not be changing in the way that if you have a certain request which is always trying to upload a very big file, which always would lead to crashes, that those type of requests would always fail now, and we would not really notice it because we just would have pods being recycled. We would need to look in our logs and see that a certain pattern of request is always crashing, maybe.
Yeah.
There would be such a case that some customers, some strange way of, I don't know, uploading something, and then wondering, okay, it's never working. I mean, I guess then we would get a request ticket maybe, and then we could find it in the logs and then see, okay, it's always the pod crashing because the disk is filling up. But previously, I think with VMs, maybe we had more tolerance because we could fill up more than 10 gigabytes before, probably. And now maybe we see some more requests which are going up to 10 gigabytes failing. But as far as I remember, we never had more than 2 gigabytes piling up in one request, right?
Yeah.
So it's more theoretical that could occur.
No, you're definitely right. I'll admit I don't understand the issue enough, like what it was causing it in the VMs to really
I think
say
in the
for
VMs
sure.
it was a timeout issue. Like if we have a request which is taking too long or reaching the timeout of workhorse, then it would cancel the request.
And then
I think at that point the it's failing to clean up the temp file where the big upload is landing in, and that's typically around 2 gigabytes when the timeout is reached. So it's a timeout issue there, and that's why we are not getting much more than 2 gigabytes, I think, because then the timeout already hits us in most cases. Yeah, if you would have a very fast upload, maybe we could reach more than 2 gigabytes, but I can't remember ever seeing this. So probably it will not be the case. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting as well, circling back to proxy buffering and Cloudflare. So you can't upload anything to GitLab bigger than 5 gigs because Cloudflare just won't let you. And it is proxy buffering it. So in theory, that connectivity that we see, the workhorse time, like it should be the speed we're seeing will be between Cloudflare and us. Yeah, so whatever that size is obviously the timeout must be consistently, that's the speed, whatever the size of the file is over the speed rate, you know.
Yeah, it is, so I think we are fine. I think probably.
I mean, I don't know if we're doing monitoring of, I know we monitor persistent volumes, but I don't know if we're monitoring these temp volumes as well. I mean, that's another metric.
I don't think we are, because we generally see these, like we generally know they're full when we fail at deployment. So I don't think we have any, and it's fine, right? We know they're full because we failed deployment and we do quite a lot of those. So it's not ideal, but we would know fairly quickly. Nice. Do you know how you're going to go about separating these readiness checks for servers and pods, Graham? Yeah, great.
So I had well, I'll bounce this off because I'm not a chef expert. Well, and it's been a long time since I've touched Ruby ERB templates, but my suspicion is I had a look. Here, so. I could try. So this is my thinking for those of you who know more than me. I can try and do a whole bunch of complex logic about like making, because it's basically one line, right, per server, and there's a bunch of logic in there for generating that. Or I'm thinking I add just a loop underneath where you can set an extra setting like raw backends or something, and it'll literally just take the string you give it and put it in there rather than trying to auto generate it from a bunch of different inherited options. And then we do that temporarily, because this is only a problem where we have mixed backends. Once we cut over completely to the other way, we can just go back to what we did before. So I was kind of thinking of having like just a way to manually insert backends instead of trying to automatically generate them. Alternatively, I can look at the generator code and try and improve it.
So what you're trying to do is like slow roll the backend change, right, Graham? And the problem is that it's sort of an all or nothing with the backend configuration. The way we've done this before is to slow roll it by stopping Chef on HA proxy and doing it on like select HA proxy nodes, either with or you can use a node override if you really want to keep Chef running, but depending on how long the window is where you want to roll this out, that makes it a little bit simpler. So you would do it by HA proxy, which means that all your backends on a given HA proxy node will get configured, you know, the new way, but it'll be a much smaller percentage of traffic.
So the problem is not that it's like changing from one configuration to another. It's we want backends, servers in the backend with different configurations. Side by side, that's the problem. It's like we have a global setting for like what port to use, but some backends are going to use the VMs use port 443, Kubernetes uses port 8181. So it's like, and we want this for weeks, probably, while we slowly increase traffic and migrate. So that's kind of the place I'm stuck at.
And could you still, I see. So you're gonna have a mix of Kubernetes and VM backends.
Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that's how we've done it, right? We've added it in with weight 0, and then we just change the weights as we want until like we weight everything over.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, but I think like we never had the problem where we have different, in this case, you have a different
No,
port.
you're right. Yeah. And as I said, even if we
Um,
kept Nginx and the port was the same, the readiness check is different. So that's why, you know, either way, we kind of had this problem.
Yeah, and you can't set the readiness. The readiness check is set at the server.
And
block.
HA proxy won't let you do different readiness checks per backend. I mean, alternatively, I do something weird, like just change it to TCP. Like we can go down this path of like changing the whole check type and stuff, but I mean, at the end of the day, I know the configuration works if I were to edit it in by hand. It's just making our chef module flexible enough to take that dual configuration.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, another.
But I'm open to ideas. I'm open to any ideas at this stage.
Another idea would be just to have a node override for HA proxy where, like, you know, some HA proxies are sending all of their backend traffic to
VMs and others to
yeah, you could do it like this. I'm trying to remember how we did this for so I know that when we got rid of Nginx for Git HTTPS, we had already migrated to Kubernetes, so that wasn't a problem. When we did the slow rollout and we used weights, I think I remember now. We used Canary for this, right? Like we had all of the VMs, and then we had the Canary server, which is also put into the main server block, right? Because we send a small percentage of traffic to Canary. Once we, and then what we did on the transition, we just like lowered the weights of the VMs, which increased the weight of the Canary. But in that case, I guess the health check was the same, right? And the port was.
The port would have been different. So yeah.
The port, no, but the thing is that because we used Canary, you can specify a different port for Canary. That logic is already in HA proxy. If you look at the server line for Canary, we use the Canary port, not the main port.
Okay.
I can kind of walk you through this if you want to, like after the call, maybe I can show you what I mean. But this is how we did it. So that should work here as well.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
As long as the health check the health check the
health check will be the same. So this is the optimal scenario. The only thing that's changing on the backends is ports. So
yeah.
But
so we had
the same issue with API when we transitioned to API.
So API was the same port, same readiness check.
Same. Okay, I see.
Even though technically that readiness check was arguably not correct, it just worked kind of enough for us to get over the line.
If you want to hijack this demo job, like if you want to do the walkthrough now, like don't mind the rest of us. We'll
sure. We can just do a quick check right now.
Yeah, and use as much time as you want, right? Like we can just continue on as needed.
So if we look at this terrible
this is what I was looking at today.
Yeah, it's really quite awful, isn't it? So we want backend and web, right? So
right.
So here we have the Canary web. And
right.
Okay, so you're right. It's the same. So maybe interesting. So we use the same port here, but how did this work for?
Yeah, I actually don't know how it works.
Yeah, let's take a look. So backend HTTPS Git. Yeah, see? This is why. Because I don't know if you're able to parse this. I'm so used to looking at it. It's totally clear to me, but so you have server, and then you have the name,
Right,
and then you have the
yeah.
IP, colon, and then the port. See how this is Canary HTTPS here? So we're able to specify a different port for
Right.
the Canary server, even though it's in the main backend. If we look at
Okay.
backend web, we just never, maybe this was a change that Scarbeck did. I don't even remember. But so if we made this Canary web and we
Right.
make sure that we have that as a setting, then I think we're good. That's all we need.
So how would I do this just purely for Canary? So if you look at backend Canary _web, where we want VMs and Kubernetes side by side, I don't think I can do that in there though, right?
No,
Is that the
you can't. But I
is at
think
the
in the
moment?
past,
Yeah.
yeah, in the past, what we never mixed VMs and Kubernetes on Canary, and I don't think we need
Oh,
to.
did we?
Like,
Okay. Oh,
I
that's
don't
news
think
to
we
me. If
did.
we don't mix,
No.
then I'm happy to fully cut over. Then it
Like,
makes things
because if we
easier.
look at the Canary HTTPS Git, which is down here, yeah, if you look at here, like we also use this one.
Yeah, I
port.
think we lowered the weight of Canary to a very low value, so we don't risk too much, right? And then we just cut it over
Yeah.
totally, and then carefully
So-
dial Canary up again.
So in the interest of kind of keeping things simpler, I would say let's make the cookbook change to allow us to have a different server port for Canary Web. And
then
yeah.
so for Canary, what I'll do is I'll do a change request, obviously, but the change request will be,
Yeah.
you know, it will be like apply this chef change, which will actually cut 100% of Canary over to Kubernetes, right? Is that what
But
it's
before
saying?
that, lower the weight of Canary, so it's not taking so much traffic, maybe.
Okay, but
Because then we can.
how do I lower the weight though for like GitLab com project, like the projects that are exclusively done by Canary, right? They're going to be.
Yeah, no, it's done at APAC. So
no, but what I'm saying is those will either, if I can only have either VM back as a server in the back end or Kubernetes as a server in the back end, at some point I'm cutting over GitLab com from VMs to Kubernetes all in one hit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And that's
if we're
like,
okay with that, I'm okay with that. You know, I can do a change request and we can have the revert ready to go.
well, the revert is really to disable Canary in chat ops.
True.
It's quick, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's easy. But you're right. Like all of the, I mean, we can.
Or I
we
do
can
this.
also. Sorry, let me just say
Sure.
we could also do this even more carefully if we want by we have these paths configured in Chef for like routing to Canary. We can just say like I don't know, we could just say like no special paths are routed to Canary. So everything's gonna like just go evenly to the main stage, and then we can use weights to just take a percentage of traffic. Do you know what I'm?
Yeah.
Does
So
that make
then what
sense?
you're
Like, yeah.
so let me clarify here then. So you're saying we would take away the special routing to Canary for things like GitLab com, www GitLab and stuff. Then we
Yes.
would add Kubernetes as Canary exclusively. So that means even in the main setup, Canary would be one of the little servers amongst all the others with a different port, because we can support that with, you know, changing the cookbook. And so then we would just mess with weights, and Canary would no longer be, for web at least, exclusively Canary nodes. It would be just a percent of the global traffic, whatever we choose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All of these options I'm fine with. It's really what people feel most comfortable with.
I think like personally, I feel like we can probably just not mess with the path routing. And so I would say like what we could do or what you could do is like configure, first of all, configure Kubernetes for Canary in Chef, and don't even bother with the weights. But you could shut down, like you could do a slow roll of HA proxy.
Right. Sure. Yep.
Right. And I guess like, I don't know how long, like, I guess the question is, how long do you want this change request to be for just Canary? Like, are we talking hours? Or are we talking days?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know myself. I guess I should have probably looked into what we did for other deployments.
Yeah, I think other
would guess
deployments,
days, right? Like I mean, if it's a pretty big, like, so this change is going to be in place so that we can test the gradual rollout to Canary, right?
yeah. I mean, I don't know
think,
how gradual the rollout to Canary should be. Like, I think for other deployments, we just went straight to Canary, and like,
especially because we
think
can
within
drain
hours,
Canary.
right?
Like,
Exactly,
in
yeah.
case of emergency, you just drain it, and the revert is very simple, right? The revert, like, I can have a revert MR sitting there just in draft status if it's.
So if we had Canary fully switched over and the main production fleet not, would we not have this problem at all?
Yeah, that would make things very simple, I think.
Yeah, and I think we can slow roll Canary by just using Chef runs on HA proxy. You know, stop HA proxy. Stop Chef on all HA proxy nodes, merge your MR, and then just like do the first HA proxy node. That will take a very small amount of traffic. And I mean, we could also use weights as well, but I think
when we did the API switch over, we tried to be clever with weights, and in our first approach, we tried to lower the weight on one side and higher the weight on the other side. But we didn't realize that then we get much more traffic sent over to Canary if we lower the weight equally on the main stage, right? So we overloaded the pods with that. By trying to be clever.
Have to be very, very careful with the calculus for calculating weight distribution. It's not like
so doing the switch over.
It's not always so straightforward.
Filling with the weights on all sides make it less complicated and less error prone, and it's easier to roll back, as Jav said, by just saving Canary.
Could you just involve me in the change request and then?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, look, I'll probably get everyone, you know, to have a look. But yeah, I think that makes sense, especially if I do this. Look, pending. Tomorrow's my Friday. I probably can't get it done, but maybe early next week. If I enact this during.
We are doing this though, Graham, can I just say, can we flip around so we get the readiness review done first if we're making a bigger change to Canary?
Okay. Sure. If that's what you
I've got to run to my next meeting. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Jav. Sure, I'm happy to do that.
I think that makes that gives us a chance to double check we have all the pieces in place and everyone knows like what's happening, and then let's just go for it.
Okay. So in that case, then I'll basically now focus on the readiness review.
Great. Perfect.
Sure.
Perfect. What do you think? So we talked about the console readiness review as well. Like, I'm assuming like we should get that. I mean, I guess it's not quite so blocking for Canary, but we should also like maybe see if Scarbeck has time to get that moving.
Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah, look, you know, I'm happy with that. If that's the direction we want to choose, it's not a problem. So I'll I mean, I'll just change to readiness review as top priority now, which is fine. Then when we get that at a state, we can continue to see where we want to. It sounds like though, at least technically now, I might even do up the change request as well. So we can, you know, got a few days to percolate, make sure everyone does like grok exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
And then it sounds like what we'll do is we'll get the readiness review in a good state. And then we'll basically do like I mean, I'm happy to do it during APAC hours where it's quiet. I'll just do maybe over 4 or 5 hours. I'll just slowly rotate HA proxy nodes over from VMs to Kubernetes at an entire VM level. And then, you know, assuming if something goes horribly wrong, just drain Canary instantly, roll it all back. Otherwise, then we just basically, after that change request is complete, we are hard Canaries in Kubernetes. And then from there, we can decide the plan for production. It sounds like actually we may have better options in production with what Jav was saying about the faking canary, well, not faking canary, but using that canary thing to kind of, it sounds like we might have some better controls to slowly roll it out in production.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Excellent. Just as we go through it, I see there's a bit of discussion on the issue, so we can certainly continue there. But I was just wondering, have we already decided how many pods we're going to start off with?
Yeah, so I had a quick look at the shorter answer is I'm kind of using API as a guidance because leveraging the work we've already done there. I had a look, like trying to compare the two, and it's unfortunate now because it's been so long. Like basically, I haven't got VM. I can't see. I can go through issues. I've got a little bits of data of what the VM stuff. VM to Kubernetes migration of API. But since then, we've done further tuning work. So I can't 100% follow it. But I think what we've got latest in Kubernetes API, I think is a pretty good starting point for web. I don't even know. I was trying to find some information about like, is API in general less traffic than web, and I couldn't find anything too conclusive. So as I said, I think it's a starting point. It's probably fine, but you know, as always, we need to. I mean, we need to tune a lot of this stuff. We know that.
Go big as well, Graham. Like that would be my
Sure.
recommendation.
Yeah.
So in some of the previous migrations, we've tried to kind of really work it out and go in with kind of what we think is the right size, and have incidents just because it's too small. Like I would much rather for the first couple of days we are like massively over provisioned and we bring it back down. So if you're not sure, just please go super big and we can scale it back.
Sure. Well, I think at the moment, even the scale for API, we can still allow up to 150 pods, I think, per cluster. And so I'm going to do the same for web. Hopefully we don't. I don't think we get anywhere near that. So
we will not waste stuff if we don't need it, and if we need it, then it's there. So it should be fine. By the way, I have one question. Did we end up with the idea to just put one pod on one web?
So I covered that quickly in a comment. I think at this point in time, it was an interesting idea. And as me and Jav bounced that idea backwards and forwards, I think it's more of the appetite for changing things now is probably, it's a good, definitely like a technical debt thing. I actually think it has merit in terms of trying to squeeze out more performance from a single machine, but obviously it's got a lot of downsides. So maybe it's not as good as we hoped, but it's something we'd have to test.
Yeah, I just wanted to know.
Sure. No. So I think we're going to try and basically, at least to start with, unless something comes out that's very different, basically keep web and API the same. And I think that's kind of what we mostly spec'd back in VMs. I think the fleet counts were similar number of VMs, same VM size. So I'm hoping that will provide us good guidance.
Yeah, should work.
And actually, Henry, you would know better than me. We've still got a few, like we still have further work to do on tuning a lot of the deployments, right? Like.
Yeah, I'm not fully in the picture of what we did while I was away for tuning, but yeah, definitely we can improve there because we still use way more than we used with VMs, and there are certain options, I think, and we still don't make use of all the requests that we could use very efficiently. Yeah, but yeah, that's for later.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely important. We should do it, but I think we can just add web to the list of things to look at, hopefully. And
yeah. By the way, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we yesterday figured out that the imbalance of traffic to the pods is related to that each node gets the same amount of traffic, but if it has just one pod instead of 3, for instance, then one pod needs to deal with triple the amount of requests, right? So that also needs to be taken into account for how many pods we put on a node and things like that. But
so
that's another discussion.
Yeah, no, it is. But very quickly, I replied on that issue and I put some more detail in there. So this is done actually. So basically, the short answer is kube proxy is supposed to prevent that, but there's a certain setting that they can set to override kube proxy doing that at the risk of unbalanced load balancing. That Kubernetes says if you change this, you're going to have this problem when a new node comes online. It's going to get all the traffic. And the reason Nginx, Ingress Nginx changed this is because Otherwise, they lose the originating IP. They get the bounce IP because normally it bounces through every single node and goes to the pod. But this one, they only goes to the nodes running pods, but load balancer will just load balance it between just those nodes instead of spreading it out. Proxy then rewriting it in a more of a consistent manner that is fair. So we can turn that, we can change that. I'm neutral, but there's a very simple fix for that if we want to change that. But it does mean that every single node in the entire cluster will then get API traffic sent to it. Like API will go to a registry node, then go bounce over to Nginx. It'll go over here and then bounce over to Nginx. So that's the pros and cons we have of it.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
So yeah, I'm not really sure if there's a good answer, but yeah, no, it was really good you found that. And as soon as you Skybeck noted you said that, I was like, I remembered that setting and I looked and I was like, yep, there it is.
Yeah, I was lucky because I didn't look at that closely. So I just had a look from outside and saw, oh, maybe I'll have a look, and it just bounced on it. I don't know.
It's good.
Cool. Great. Is there any other stuff we want to cover of today? No?
I'm pretty happy.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I think the plan's solid. I think do the documentation and that readiness review now, get a lot of make sure a lot of people look at it, and we're all of us are in agreement of the direction we want to do for the next step.
Awesome. Sounds good. Great stuff. Thank you very much for demos. Good luck with the next bits, and yeah, hope you have a good rest of your day.
Fun last information. Ops is back up now, so we can use it again.
Good.
But it didn't upgrade. Yeah.
Oh, really? They had that problem with the pip packet.
Yeah, something. So, but I just wanted to say goodbye for that.
Yeah.
It was like a good but slightly downer, but it's
Yeah.
up, so that's good. Right? Awesome. All right. Thanks very much, everyone. See you soon.
See ya.
See you.